Welcome back everyone. This is Vishal Chess YouTube channel. I know you must be thinking, after such a great response on this series of how to calculate, why I haven't uploaded a video in last 7 to 8 days. The reason being, I went to this calculation workshop where I was told that chess is all about tactics. Up to 2000 rating, opening doesn't matter. And in middle games, it's always about tactics and imbalances. So you have to solve more and more puzzles. So that was on the board and I'm trying to replicate that in a virtual medium and bring it back to you. So if you want to support me, I've just added the Razorpay link in there in the description and in the first comment. If you want so, you can proceed with that. Alright, coming back to the video. So I also came across this video of Hikaru Nakamura saying that chess is also 90% tactics. See, this universe is bringing all about the things that tells me that you must follow your instincts and work on your tactics. And here I am solving these puzzles for you, bringing all those learnings from that workshop, and I'll be telling you the thinking process as well. So when I saw this puzzle for the first time, what I thought, what was my thinking process? I was thinking, okay, this bishop is controlling g7 and e7. So in case this king run away, the king won't be able to come up. Alright, this was my first observation. The second observation was that this bishop is cutting this diagonal, and when you add this with this rook here, checkmate comes along. But what is the problem? The problem is this pawn chain here. If I sacrifice my rook here, then he has to take with this pawn, and then when I take this rook opening this line, he has to take this with this knight here. This calculation do not end here, and then I'll switch my queen here, threatening checkmate. Also, I'm threatening to capture the knight as well. But I learned that you should not calculate your moves, your side of moves, and get very excited, because you have to calculate your opponent moves as well. If I take this with the rook and then the pawn captures, I take another with my rook and then this knight captures, I goes with my queen to h6 threatening mate, the knight is here, and now the knight is defending g7. You can't go in there, because then in that case you will lose your bishop or the queen. When you capture with the queen, the black will simply capture with the knight, and when you take it back with the bishop, the king would capture. So you have lost a queen and a bishop for a knight, and that won't help when this rook can come to e5 and guard this here. Oh my god, all my calculation was going into vain. But then, right then, I got an idea. This knight is all the root of my problem. I have to eliminate it. Then the second calculation I went into is that what if I capture it? And just when I look at it, I got to know that this knight was actually attacking the king. That's a rookie mistake, because when I started, what I did, I was looking at this half of the board, because the puzzle came to me and I was suddenly looking at the mate attacks, because we were told it is going to be a mate. So now when it appeared to me that this knight is actually putting a threat to my king, I now have an idea to eliminate this knight first, because if I don't eliminate it, I have to move my king, and that gives the black a tempo to save his king somewhere. Now what should I do? Now I look for eliminating this knight. How do I eliminate it? There are two ways to eliminate this knight. I can capture with this rook, or I can capture with the queen. But in both cases, this bishop and the queen are lined up on this diagonal to capture that. If I take with the rook, they will simply take with the bishop, and when I take with the queen will come out and capture it. So that's a completely loss. Now what my intuition is saying, my intuition was saying that somehow there is a mate that involves these two rooks, or maybe this rook has to sacrifice and then this rook comes into action. But how? I saw that the number of pieces are almost same. There are 5 minor pieces for the white and 5 minor pieces for the black. And then I calculated for the queen sacrifice. Why? Because this knight is causing all the problems in here. Here my bishop and the rook is collaborating so well to put in a mate threat, and this knight is just restricting it. So I started calculating, if I capture this with my queen, he would simply capture this with the bishop, and then I can take the pawn with the rook. I will have a rook sacrifice, and when this pawn capture this rook, I'll simply capture it. There would be no knight to capture this rook on h4 threatening mate. Let's do this on the board. Now suppose I give a queen sacrifice, and then the bishop comes along and takes the queen, I can simply do a rook sacrifice here, and when pawn captures, I capture it with the rook. Just look at this position. What can black do? So basically black can just delay the mate here but cannot stop it, as in this black bishop can come in and then you can capture, this king could go in, and then this is a mate. So when I solved this puzzle, I was very excited. I just made a queen sacrifice and put a mate to the black's king. I went to a group that was discussing this position, and I was very thrilled that I knew this solution. So what they told me, that instead of taking the queen here, black would simply put his bishop to e5. And now he's threatening to take this bishop here. Wow. I completely missed this. So what I got to learn here, that you have to calculate each and every scenario. But in case you miss something that puts black into the defensive state, you will lose. Now this bishop is threatening to take my bishop, and I can simply take with the queen. So what I told them, that in this situation you do not have to worry. You do not have to think about this bishop, because ultimately this queen will capture and do the same role as that of bishop. So you just follow your plan. You just take this with this pawn, and then black would have two options: either have to take or you have to take with this bishop. And now if bishop captures at f6, you simply capture the bishop. You ignore this rook threat here, because after the capture of this rook, this h rook comes into the play, and then you are threatening the same mate again, and there is no way black can defend it. I know some of you would tell that black can offer a queen exchange and put this queen to maybe d8, but that won't solve it, because this rook is again going in and hitting you to mate. Now this is the second puzzle coming for all you guys. You can just pause this video and you can calculate all the variations you want. We will discuss it one by one. Now what happened? What my thinking process was, that this queen here is just building up and cutting the board into two halves and taking most of the squares of this king. The king has three escape squares basically, and the queen is cutting both two of them. The king now just have one square to take, which is f8. Now if I somehow manage to cut this space f8 and give a king the check, then the king must not survive. And in case suppose this king suddenly moves in here, I can go with my queen and put a mate, because then the king won't be able to make any moves, because all its squares are blocked by its own pieces. Now just by looking at the board, because I have solved so many of puzzles, and as you are solving with me, you will be able to identify moves. Like in this one, automatically my brain sends me a signal that this knight should land on f6 and put a check. And if this black king lands in any of these pieces, then you can just simply remove this knight from f5, and there would be a discovered check, and you can simply take this maybe knight here and then capture this queen, and you will automatically win. But black is ready for it. Black has already guarded this place with this knight, and there is no check for now. So what my plan is, I want to remove that defender and then proceed with my plan, because this king looks very vulnerable here. The queen is attacking, the bishop is attacking, the rook can come into play, so there are so many attacks. And what I do, I simply take this with my rook, and once I capture it, black is forced to capture, and black took it with his bishop, which allows me to put my knight and land right on that position where I want to be. I wanted to be on f6, and here's my knight landed and sit there like a throne, and there's a check. Now suppose this king comes on g7, this actually mate in 2. Find it, come on, you can find it, because as soon you see this, you have this option of double check. Now how can we do this double check? You can, because this knight can land into h5, and then this knight would be giving a check, and this queen can somehow enter it. g7 is now protected with both the knight and the queen, and that would be made for the king wherever the king moves. Suppose the king moves here, king moves here, king moves here, but the queen is landing on g7 and putting it a mate. So that is not an option. I'll let you know with this. For those who have not calculated in their head, here's the solution. You put this knight here at h5, and this king has to move. Suppose this king moves here, and then the queen comes around, and there's a mate. As soon we launched into this moment where I said that king, what happens if the king moves to h8? Now suddenly one boy jumps out and said that there's no change in the condition because these two positions are actually blocked by the queen, so that would offer a check again when this knight moves to h5. But will it work? That is what I asked him. He just said yes, he's working because this queen is ready to land on h7 wherever the king moves. I said let's do it, and when this knight lands on h5, he said no. What can black do? Black can come around to g8 and this queen will be mating him. But then I shouted, wait a minute, let's go back. Is there another resource for black that you missed? And he thought for a minute and he came up with this response. He was 1700 rated and he came up with this response on his own that yes, this pawn can be pushed. e5, what a move. Now this queen cannot capture it because this is overprotected with the rook and the queen. The king is pretty safe in there because this knight has to move, and now the black who is one actually winning. Now there's actually a way for white to win. Can you find it? It's just we do not give the opportunity to black to push e5. The knight is in the way of this queen, threatening a check to this king. So it means the moment the knight moves, there would be a discovered attack. So knight moves to d5 and there's a check. Now the king must move, and there you go with the queen. The rook can capture it, but you have just simply given a piece and you have collected the whole queen, and there you go, you win. Now it comes down to the third position where this black king can move, and that is king moves to f8. Now that is actually arguably the best way that black can proceed with this position. Now we were still told to find out this move because black is still losing. Now the king is safe of the discovered attacks. How would you proceed? Now if you are playing white and you said that this knight would move to h5, threatening this queen to comes down to h8, and that would be a mate for the black, then my friend, you are wrong and you lose as white. Why so? And you're still asking this question? The answer to your question, my friend, is that the same thing we have discussed before, and it happens to all of us. You remember this move, one move before, and now you forget it completely because now again this e5 move will push, and now the same situation will arrive. You push this knight to h5 and he will push this pawn here, and this black is suddenly winning because this diagonal is completely blocked. Your knight is under attack, and now white, as a white, you cannot do anything. Oh, come on, tell us the solution. So the solution, my friend, is this. The knight simply has to move somewhere to a place where it can actually attack one of the major pieces, being the queen here. And you can simply switch your knight to d5 where it attacks the queen and enables your queen, the white queen, to move to h8, threatening this mate. Now the king has to do something. To stop this mate, the king has to move, and then you can simply capture this queen over here, and then you can attack the king as well. So the rook has to capture, and you have again benefited out of it. You have captured the queen for a knight, and you will surely win off of this. Unless, who knows, you will blunder your queen away and you will lose.